What's up, y'all? It's Anime Gamer back with another video tonight. So, this time I'm going to talk about something that probably more people will resonate with, probably more than a lot of the other topics, maybe even more than gaslighting, to be honest. So, just kind of bear with me on this because it's a lot to get into, but you know. Anyways, tonight I'm going to talk about stonewalling. And, you know, stonewalling honestly it is very destructive. And, you know, these people who do this, you know, they really need to kind of, you know, start to check their behavior, because stonewalling is probably one of the most shittiest things you can do, honestly. Also, another form of stonewalling would also be phubbing in a way. I plan on talking about phubbing sometime on this channel, possibly next week if I can get around to it. I do have other stuff planned to talk about on almost each day. So if I can kind of squeeze it in, I'll talk about it. But, you know, it's just, you know, stonewalling, it's very destructive. It's very damaging. And it's just, it's not something I would wish on anybody, because basically what it is stonewalling is a very toxic defense mechanism. And, you know, it's a very toxic defense mechanism. You know, basically where someone will withdraw from conversation or argument and just completely shuts down. Like, completely shuts down, and there's no, after they started stonewalling you, it's very similar to the silent treatment. And, you know, there's a lot of people who do the silent treatment in relationships. You know, now I will say this, I will honestly, you know, say this because I believe in telling the truth always. But, you know, stonewalling, believe it or not, more men stonewall than women. That is a fact. Like, you know, there are a lot of women who stonewall, but they're not as bad at stonewalling as they are as men. A lot of men are very bad about this. And, you know, a lot of men have honestly lost the relationship because they stonewalled. And, you know, it's a very toxic, destructive, you know, behavior, and it hurts like hell too. Like, I mean, it hurts like hell when someone stonewalls you, phubs you, or whatever it is, you know, that's very similar to that. It hurts like hell. And, you know, they will also too, what they will do is, if they actually do reply, they will give like very short replies, like very ass in, like short ass answers, like very, very casual answers. You know, like you can tell they're not interested in the conversation or nothing. And a lot of times when you'll ask them a question, they will not respond to it. You know, that is one of the key factors of stonewalling, is if you ask them a question, they will stonewall you immediately and not answer that question. So, you know, it's very hard to deal with, and I will say this towards the beginning of the video instead of at the end, like I did 2 other topics, like the one from earlier and breadcrumbing. This topic individual, you are definitely going to need therapy. Like, you're definitely going to need some therapy if you've, you know, been a victim of intense stonewalling, because stonewalling, that can not only destroy your confidence, but that can destroy your emotional well-being, and it also can kind of destroy your mental health, to be honest. Like, it's honestly that bad. And, you know, Another thing that these people that are stonewalling will do, they will always avoid eye contact. They will not look you dead in the eyes. They will look away. They will look down as if they're lying, or any other way. They will look at anything else other than you in the eyes. And, when it comes to that, when they're not looking at you in the eyes, that is a big problem. That is a huge problem, because that lets you know right off the bat they are uninterested in the conversation. They are uninterested in what you are talking about. They are uninterested of whatever's going on with you, how you feel. They simply do not care. And, they will also, if you ask something or say something, they will pretend also not to hear it. They will pretend not to even notice someone if it boils down to it. And, honestly, I've had this happen a lot in my life. And, it's kind of one of the big reasons I have to do therapy, because even though therapy don't work, but it's honestly one reason why I kind of became involved in it, later on in life, because it can really destroy a person. And, another thing too is they will always, most of the time, like I mentioned earlier, that they will pretend not to hear or notice, and then they will also walk away during the argument or give short replies. They will also completely change the subject into something less uncomfortable. Say you're arguing about say something you're arguing about is I don't really feel appreciated, so, and then the other person who's stonewalling saying, no, hold on a minute. No, did you hear about that new film coming out, in November? It can be anything like that, they will completely stonewall the whole idea, and they will not answer your questions. They will not listen to you. They will pretend like they have not heard you. Anyway, they will also storm off completely without even finishing the damn conversation. This is a big one for me, because I've had this happen many times in my life in relationships. They will sit there and storm off when you call them out or whatever it is, and that is very destructive behavior. It is very toxic behavior, and, like I say all the time, that is not something you want in your life, and they will also come up with excuses. I mean, any kind of excuses to avoid that conversation, in the love relationship. Say one person says, well, I feel very lonely because you won't spend time with me, you won't do this, or you won't do that, or, like I say, I don't feel appreciated, and then, what they will do is they will come up with an excuse of why they're doing their actions, just some BS excuse, and then, it's not going anywhere. The conversation is not going anywhere. And, these people that are, stonewalling, they will always, be in towards this kind of bad habit, to always, be the one to talk over you. They will always try to talk over you when they're trying to change the subject, like I mentioned earlier. And, when you're dealing with a person like that, in a love relationship like that, it's really going to infuriate the other person. But, if you're dealing with this in a love relationship, my best advice is honestly to seek solo or couple therapy, because, when you're not going to change it. That's the thing. You are not going to change it. There's nothing you can do to make them stop stonewalling, because stonewalling is a toxic defense mechanism. So, in their mind, they're using it as a defense mechanism, kind of like like someone comes up to you and tries to fight you, you're going to fight back to defend yourself. It's kind of like that. But, they're getting defensive for no reason. They're getting defensive because they're guilty of something possibly or whatever, So it's a very hard thing to deal with. Stonewalling can completely destroy a marriage, completely. It can completely destroy a love relationship. People who have been stonewalled, they will feel demeanored, they will feel, abused, and they a lot of times will question their own self-worth. I know that's what I did. It made me question my self-worth. And, honestly, really to this day, it still kind of affects me in some way because, I've had it so much, growing up and dating and stuff. I've been stonewalled by almost everybody I've dated. Literally, almost every woman I've dated, I've been stonewalled. And, a way to deal with this, when you're responding to these people, always try to use I and you instead of other terms and other words, because those are getting that kind of message across. Like when you say I so and so or I this and this, you're addressing some issues here. And then when you go the same thing for you're addressing some issues, And stonewalling also is a very toxic behavior. Also, back in no, they don't want to be called out. No, they don't. They don't want to be called out. Like one time, this ex I had, because I ran off to Indiana with her, and I honestly love this woman. I really did. If other than my wife, if I had to say I genuinely loved another woman, it would be this one. So the thing is when I would talk about, I mentioned her before in breadcrumbing and another video that I did, and I tried to talk to her about it, and she would stonewall me every damn time I would try to talk about the cheating or her lying or whatever it was, talking to another man or whatever it was, I would always be stonewalled. And, that kind of feeling right there, it can make you feel worthless. It honestly really can. You will feel so worthless. You will look at yourself in the mirror with disgust. That's honestly how bad it'll make you feel. And, well, that's one of the main reasons men give up on dating. Yeah, because there's several reasons. I do plan on doing a video on that. But the thing is, if I do a video on that, that's probably going to be 2 or 3 hours. So I will definitely have to break that up because that's going to be way more to talk about than any of this stuff I'm talking about now. But, because I watch all these kinds of videos and stuff about stuff like this, so I'm pretty educated in that field. And, another thing too is if you're a victim of stonewalling, you got to address the conflict. You got to address the stonewalling outside of the conflict because, say you have a conversation, just a normal conversation, bring up the stonewalling. Say, hey, you stonewalled me the other time. I didn't really appreciate that. That made me feel like shit. That made me feel terrible. It made me feel worthless. That's something you need to communicate when you've been stonewalled. Because if you do not communicate that, there's never going to be a change. I mean, like I said before, you can't change them, but they're never going to want to go to therapy. And even if you do tell them this, they may still not want to go to therapy. It may be just a dead relationship already because stonewalling is not something very easy to stop. If someone stonewalls you, good luck because, getting them to stop that's almost like pulling a needle out of a haystack. It is that hard because it is a defense mechanism. So it's not, it's not like breadcrumbing. It's not like, the topic I just talked about earlier, love bombing. It's not something like that. It's very different and it's more destructive than love bombing, completely, because, you know, love bombing, like I mentioned earlier in the video, it's not a genuine love. So, yeah, probably. But, you know, like, another thing, too, is, you know, like, they will also, they also can stonewall because, you know, it can all they could also try to do this to end the relationship too. Like, you know, say they don't have the guts or the heart to break up with you, they will stonewall you instead and hope you leave. You know, it's like, you know, it's an ass backwards way of doing it. And, you know, it also, a lot of times, stonewalling can be used, you know, to assert control over somebody, or, you know, even bring them harm. Like, you know, and when it gets to that level to bring them harm, you know, that's honestly how, like, it was with the woman I was talking about, because, you know, she brought me great emotional harm, you know, and, you know, when she cheated for the last time and I broke up with her, dude, y'all, I thought I was never going to get over this. Like, you know, it was so bad, you know, like, I was set in rock and rock and rock. Like, I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't play a game. I couldn't even read the Bible. Like, it was really bad. And, you know, because, you know, if you genuinely love someone and you're being stonewalled, you know, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt like hell. And, you know, it's not a very easy thing to deal with. It's very rough, you know. So another thing too, people, they also might stonewall, you know, if they're feeling like ashamed of something they've done or confused about something, they may just put up a stonewall. Or, you know, even sometimes they even will do it if they're shocked about something, like shocked you maybe know something that they've done or something. They're like, you know, and then put up a stonewall, you know, and then try to turn it around back on you. And, you know, this kind of does go hand in hand with gaslighting as well, to be honest. But, you know, another way to deal with it too is you got to try to pinpoint the problem. Because, you know, there's always a problem, there's always a reason a person will stonewall. And, you know, stonewalling can be a way, it can be intentional and it can be unintentional. So, you know, it's like you gotta really pay attention, you know. And it can be verbally and it can be non-verbally too, like, you know. But anyway, it's withdrawing from a conflict. It's kind of like the silent treatment in a way, but, you know, a lot worse. You know, it's pretty much the silent treatment on steroids, basically. And the silent treatment is honestly bad enough, to be honest. You know, so, you know, stonewalling is going to be even worse, you know, and it's honestly a big mess, you know, that people do. And it's very rough because, you know, like with the silent treatment, I'll talk a little bit about the silent treatment too, because really it goes hand in hand with that too. You know, it's a form of the silent treatment is a form, just like, you know, the stonewall, it's a form of emotional manipulation and abuse, you know, in which somebody, you know, intentionally avoids communication with another. Like, you know, say they got kind of agitated that somebody did something. It's like, oh, you know, I'm just not going to talk to you then, you know. Narcissistic tendencies, in other words. It goes with that, too. And, you know, what they do is they make you feel isolated and neglected. So, you know, and those things there, isolation and neglect, are two of the worst human emotions, I believe, that exist. Because, you know, I feel those emotions every day. You know, with the world around me, living in the Matrix, stuff like that. So it's like, you know, I know how that stuff feels. It's really bad. And, you know, like a cause that people will do the silent treatment for is, you know, they have a desire to punish or control the other person. Like, you know, say you piss your partner off with something you've done that you shouldn't have done. You know, they will give you the silent treatment just to punish you over it, or to gain control of the situation because, you're sitting here feeling this way, so it's like, well, I got to gain control over the situation, so I'm going to just either stonewall or give the silent treatment to gain control. And no, that is not a healthy way of being in a relationship. That is not healthy at all, and that will destroy a relationship. That will destroy a marriage quicker than flies on horse shit. Like, I'm not even joking. That will destroy it, because a part of being in a relationship, if a man is in a relationship with a woman, or a woman in a relationship with a man, part of that is communication. Like, a big part of that is communication. Like, if there's no communication, that relationship is dead. It's gone. There is no relationship without communication. That, it's kind of like saying, well, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, but I never pray, that he'll help me with my sin. I never pray, maybe for something to happen, good to happen. I never pray for this or that, or, I just don't ever check in with God. Like, that's what that's like, and, if that was the case, that's how you're going to do that. Guess what's going to happen? You're not going to make it to heaven, because, God says he wants to hear from you. It's a spiritual relationship. So if you do not do that, there is no relationship. It's gone. It's down the drain. There is no relationship, So the silent treatment and stonewalling is very destructive. It can even be destructive and some people have even done this with God. Like, there's been times, and I'm not going to lie, like, there's been times where I've gave God the silent treatment because I'm hurting or I'm extremely depressed, or anxious, and I think there is a different, like, kind of dynamic when it comes to that, because when you're like that, you are not thinking clearly, But, it's like, it's very hard not to, like, I try to work on that, I try to pray more than I do, and a lot of times I do fail. I can admit that. I do fail. And, because depression for me, it's like, a lot of days, I find it very difficult to keep my head above water. I feel like, basically I'm drowning every day, literally, and just like, I mentioned before with like the voice acting thing about this woman who really meant a lot to me, that's honestly how I've felt since this happened, is I feel like I can't keep my head above water, and there's honestly a song, that I listen to, it's not really talking bad about God or religion, but it's like, it's about like how people will, just believe any dogma. They won't question it, or, they won't go out to find the answers. It's like, oh, okay, well, so-and-so said it, so, yep, it's true, basically referring to like TV pastors or pastors within a church, It's not necessarily like someone like, you or me or someone like that. It's someone with like some sort of authority, and, the way that it works is, if you're giving God the silent treatment, do you expect him to come help you too? Like, do you honestly expect him to help you? Because, why would you help someone who's giving you the silent treatment, like, yeah, sure, God still loves you and everything, but, he wants to hear from you. Prayer is a very important part of the relationship. So you're probably wondering why I mentioned this, like the whole thing with God, but, it's a Christian analogy that I use, so it's the same concept, because as a Christian or a spiritual relationship with God, that's what you do. You will talk, obviously, to God, maybe we don't talk as much as we should, but, they will at least try to talk to him, some and stuff, I pray every night, and I try to pray in the day as well, but it does get a lot of times it does get hard, especially because I can't keep my head above water. So another thing too is like, with the silent treatment, that they will really decrease like your self-esteem and confidence. So say you have like the biggest self-esteem, ever, right? Like you're just on top of the world with self-esteem. Well, deal with a person who stonewalls you, gives you the silent treatment, and I promise you 100% you will need therapy because you will feel worthless. You will feel like you have no self-esteem. You will have no self-esteem. Like you will have no confidence or anything. You just won't. Like it's honestly this bad. And, you know, it also will cause great anxiety and depression. And I know that all too well. Like it will, if you have anxiety and depression already, and if you're being stonewalled and given the silent treatment, that'll make that depression on steroids. Like it'll be bad. Like, you know, you may even think about like ending it. Like that's how bad that it'll become. You know, so. You know, and I'll tell you this for me, you know, I've had it so much, you know, it's kind of stuck with me for the rest of my life because now I have difficulty trusting others. So, you know, a person who's constantly been stonewalled, you know, or given the silent treatment, it's going to be extremely hard for them to trust, you know, whoever it is, you know, and you know, that's a very deadly tactic to use because, I mean, no, it more than likely won't kill you unless you die of like an anxiety attack or depression or something. But, you know, it'll definitely wreak havoc in your mind because, and you know, they say the mind is a devil's playground, and you know that is true. That is true, and you know. It's very bad. It's very bad. Yeah, I agree. They have to work hard to gain the trust, and it's just, you know, never. Oh, are you talking about Never with Stonewall or something? But like, yeah, it's you know, I have very hard, like, you know, even when I got married, I really honestly didn't fully trust my wife. Like, you know, and they do say without trust, a relationship is dead. I mean, a lot of cases that is true. You know, I mean, I guess, you know, there was some trust there, you know, but like, it takes a while, you know, for someone like me who's been stonewalled and constantly given the silent treatment. Because, like I mentioned earlier, that will destroy your mental health. I'm not exaggerating. Like, I can't say that enough. Like, it is that bad. Like, the silent treatment and stonewalling, like, is probably, honestly, if not the first, but second worst thing I have talked about on this channel. Like, it's that serious. You know, obviously gaslighting and narcissistic tendencies is the first, but, you know, but then again, you know, stonewalling and the silent treatment, you know, narcissists do that stuff. They do it all the time. So, you know, I guess, you know, like I said, they do go hand in hand. And, you know, it's just, yeah, it's really bad, and I don't really wish that. I would never wish that on anyone. Because, you know, I know what it's like, and, you know, it's really bad. Like, yeah, like all types of people, terrible people do it. Like, you know, like there's even some people, like if you like in some instances they will give you the silent treatment in the church, like not necessarily stonewall, but silent treatment. They will do that sometimes, but you know, most and foremost, like it's mostly for, you know, relationships, like love interest relationships, and it's really bad, and because it's very destructive. Like, it's extremely destructive, and, you know, yeah, I know. It's really, it's very hard to deal with. Like, you know, and I'll tell you another thing. When you're a victim of this, like, I cannot stress this part enough neither. When you're a victim of this, you will feel, intense aggression and hostility. Like, I cannot, and anger, you will feel that. Like, because when someone does that to you, it's a very heartless thing to do. The silent treatment is a heartless thing to do. And, stonewalling is a heartless thing to do. So it's very hard to cope when it comes to stuff like that, and you gotta let the other person know you will not tolerate being ignored. Because if you don't set that boundary, if you don't let them know, hey, I'm not going to tolerate this bullshit from you. I'm not going to tolerate being ignored. You're never going to get anywhere if you do not do that. And you have to communicate like everything you feel, like everything, like, whether it's hurt, confusion, anger, pissed off, whatever it is, but you got to do it in a calm and like an assertive. You got to be assertive about it in that kind of manner, because if you don't do it, you're wasting your breath. And even then, you still might be wasting your breath then. But at least you're coming across, hey, I'm not going to take this shit. Like, that's how you've got to come across, because if you don't, then yeah. But another thing too is you gotta try to find some support for this, and you got to you got to try to find maybe a family member you can trust, a therapist. Definitely, you're gonna need a therapist, like I said before. Try to find a trusted friend. I mean, look, I know that's hard to find these days. Like I talked about before, people do not understand what a real friend is. And a lot of these people, they're talking to people and they're not really friends. They're not really friends. They're just acquaintances. Acquaintances is more common than friends, and because here's the thing, if you want to find out if they're a friend, ask them to their face. Ask them to their face. If are we so close? Would you lay your life down for me? Because, Jesus said, a person who lays his life down for his friends, that's a true friend. That's a person who's going to be there from thick and thin with you. That's a person who's like a brother or a sister. That's what that is. And if your friend is not like that, get rid of them. I can't stress that enough. Get rid of them, because they do not care about you. Because, and it's kind of like, it's kind of like also an analogy, like, I'm going to use this movie for example. Like in Saw 3, there's a guy, his son was killed, and he basically what he's got to do is he's got to go through like all this stuff, and like try to help these people out of these traps, that could have done something about this boy's killer, so there's people that didn't do anything, about it, and now they're in traps too, and he's got like this vengeance towards them, and that's understandable. Like, it's very hard, honestly, for me to watch Saw 3 out of all the films, because it makes me really question what would I do in this situation. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, because if someone killed my son like that, regardless if it changed their life or not, I can kind of understand why he felt like killing him. I can honestly understand it, and I do not condone murder, but at the same time, I understand it, because I would probably feel that some type of way like that too, if my son or daughter was killed like that, and nothing was done about it, so but anyway, as I was saying with the analogy, the guy will get the guy will become face to face with the person responsible for killing his son, and it's like, when he comes face to face with him, this movie takes a turn for the worst. And I don't mean like that in a bad film. I mean like, you really start to see just how much vengeance this guy has out for this guy. Like he at this point, you know, he's sitting here happy because, you know, this guy is in a trap called the rack. And basically what this trap does is it twists his arms, his legs, and eventually his neck until it breaks. So it does it like one by one, like one arm, then the other, then the leg, then the other leg, then the neck. So anyway, basically what this guy has to do is like Jigsaw is like, you know, are you willing to take a bullet for the man who murdered your son? So that's what I want to talk about here real quick, is the fact that he asks him, will you take a bullet for the person who murdered your son? Will you set vengeance aside? Will you set vengeance and pride aside and save this person's life? Because Jigsaw talks about how his life changed that day too, when this guy ran over this boy. Because the guy who has vengeance isn't the only one that changed. The guy who hit the boy, also changed too, you know, but he never knew that. So this whole time he's watching, you know, this guy have his arms twisted, his feet twisted, you know, and he saves the judge like in the last trap before this. And, you know, the judge is like, you know, Jeff, you got to help him. You got to do something, because if you don't, you are accomplice to murder. You kill this man because his life is in your hands. If you don't do anything, you committed the murder, you know. So, you know, and then he's like, you know, yeah, I wanted to kill him every day, you know. So it's like, you know, the movie, it really makes me think, you know, and I know you may think I've gotten kind of off topic with what I'm talking about, but what I'm trying to say is, you know, and the thing is he actually does the thing. He actually does the trap, but he makes the bullet go into the judge's head. So he tried to cheat it, but, you know, it didn't work, so everybody dies. But anyway, the moral of why I'm saying this is the fact of, you know, if someone like that, if someone like Jigsaw is asking someone like that to take a bullet for this person, because every life is precious when you think about it, you know, are you seriously going to come to me and say, you know, well, you know, yeah, I had friends, but, you know, yeah, they wouldn't take a bullet for me, you know, if worst came to worst, or, you know, like, you know, no, that's not a friend, you know. So anyway, you know, I just wanted to make that point really quickly, you know, but you know, the silent treatment also, it can be like, you know, it can be a temporary, you know, or long term. It's whatever. Like, it could be like temporary, like you give the silent treatment for like 20, 30 minutes, you know, or you give like the silent treatment for a week or a day or even longer than that. Like, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, it can be both. And, you know, the thing is like, you know, the longer that it goes on, the more bad it hurts, the more bad you will start to feel, the more angry and aggression you will feel, the more hostility you will feel. No, you misunderstood what I said. I said the one who wanted to kill the man who murdered his son, like, yeah, okay, yeah, he tried to cheat the trap, like try to lean to the side, and, you know, like let the bullet like hit the wall, but the bullet actually hits the judge in the head and blows his head off. But like, you know, but you know, anyway, as I was saying, like, you know, it's very important, you know, like if you're dealing with stuff like this, you know, you got to distinguish between healthy need of space and intentional use of silent treatment as a manipulative tool. Like, you know, say you're depressed and it's like, you know, look, I just need a couple minutes. Like, can you please leave me alone? Like, you know, that's not the silent treatment. But the silent treatment is like, you know, say you're depressed or whatever it is, whatever situation you got going on, and you just don't talk. You just give them a silent treatment, you know, and I've done this. I will admit I'm guilty of it sometimes, you know, because like my depression will take over and I'll just completely shut down, you know, like I don't really do it anymore, but like, you know, I have done this, and, you know, especially when, you know, I found out that voice actress, you know, that I adored so much and cared for, ended her life, you know, something I have struggled with for years and years and years. And she was the one who helped me, you know, and come to find out, she died of what she helped me with. You know, I can't really honestly put into words because it's honestly so bad of how that messes with your mind. I honestly really can't. And, you know, when this happened, I gave the silent treatment to everybody. Anybody tried to message me, talk to me, I would not reply. I would not answer. I just wanted them to go away. And, you know, that was intentional, you know. But, you know, at the same time, I was doing that, not even realizing I was doing it because, you know, I was in so much pain at the fact of what I just said. You know, I just started doing the silent treatment. I wasn't necessarily using it as a manipulative tool. I was just using it because I was just in so much pain. And to be honest, I'm still in a lot of pain about it. You know, it hasn't gotten any better, but, you know, I don't do the silent treatment over it. But, you know, like, also, you know, when you're addressing stonewalling, you know, you got to take care of yourself, you know, check for triggers, stuff like that, you know. Yeah, you know, it's a very tough thing to deal with, honestly, and it's very difficult because, like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, like in the Bible where it talks about, like, you know, the four horsemen of the apocalypse or something like that. You know, it can predict divorce in a way. Like if there's criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling, the marriage is over. Don't even try. It is over because you cannot thrive in a marriage like that. It will not happen. That's like saying you're going to live in a sexless marriage. Like that's what that's like saying. And, you know, I know somebody's probably going to come at me and say, hey, you know, there are certain people who do sexless marriages. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. You can say that all you want, but them people have problems. They have extreme issues because they are not doing what God created them to do. So, you know, and that could be considered as a sexual stonewall as well, because that exists too, sexual stonewalling. But, you know, I'm not going to talk about that. But, you know, building a wall, you know, isn't something you should do. You know, like you've probably heard the term before, like, oh, well, I can't get your walls down, or like, you know, you keep putting your walls up, or, you know, why won't you let your walls down around me? You know, y'all have probably heard that kind of thing before. And, you know, I've heard it, you know, before, you know, and to be honest with you, I've had walls up, you know, and to be honest, you know, I still have certain walls up, but, you know, it's different. I have walls up to protect me, you know, instead of using something as a manipulative tool. So this is not considered stonewalling. But, you know, stonewalling, 99% of the time, is intentional. It is intentional. As a matter of fact, I would say 99.9% it's intentional. The silent treatment is more than likely intentional. There are people who do it on accident, like I just mentioned how I used to do that. You know, but, you know, it's just, it's a lot to get into with this topic, you know, but the thing is also, too, is, you know, when you go to therapy for this, you know, there are some therapists who will just tell you to just lower your walls down, you know, and they won't even address the issues. So it's like, you know, if you're going, because I've had this happen, that's how I know. You know, so if you go to therapy for this, you know, you better dang well make sure, you know, there's a therapist that's honestly, genuinely going to talk and try to address the issues, because if they don't, then, you know, you're never going to get over the angriness, you're never going to get over the aggression and irritation, anxiety that it brings, because when I say that it brings this stuff, I mean it's it's hardcore stuff. Like it's hardcore anger, hardcore irritation, you know, and it can even lead to disgust and resentment as well because, you know, especially in marriage and, you know, like if a man's got a girlfriend or a woman's got a boyfriend or what, you know, that's going to cause, that's what that's going to cause, you know, that's going to cause them to say, hey, well, you know, I can't trust this person, or, you know, I can't get through to them, you know, they just neglect me, and, you know, I'm just here. So, you know, why continue the relationship at this point? Because, you know, a person who's stonewalling you intentionally, they do not care about you. A person who's giving you the silent treatment intentionally, they do not care about you. You know, and like I just said, stonewalling, pretty much we've got that ruled out that it's intentional. So, you know, but the silent treatment, like I said, you know, it can be both intentional and non-intentional. So, you know, people with depression often do this, and, you know, it really goes against them. It really does. And, you know, because it goes against me. So, you know, it's very tough to deal with it. It's very tough to deal with it because, like, there's days, especially like I mentioned before, like I can't keep my head above water. Like, you know, like I can't deal with anybody. Like I honestly really cannot deal with anybody because if I'm starting to deal with somebody, like somebody other than my wife, or, you know, somebody I do feel like talking to, you know, like my close friend or whatever, you know, like I'm probably going to be an a-hole about something. Like, I'm not joking. Like, you know, when I'm like that, it's just best to leave me alone. But, like, you know, because if I'm not left alone, you know, I may give a silent treatment. But, you know, no, I'm not doing it to hurt someone. I'm doing it because, you know, I can't mentally be there to talk. I can't mentally be there in my mind, you know, to honestly care about what you're talking about. And I don't mean that in a rude way. Like, I'm sure that people, if y'all have dealt with depression and anxiety, you understand what I'm talking about. Like, you damn well understand what I'm talking about. You know, because, you know, when you have this, like, you know, you feel like you're drowning. And, you know, that is a bad feeling. Like, you know, I've almost drowned in a pool before. Like, when I was 18 years old. Like, you know, and, you know, my girlfriend at the time, you know, she didn't ever really do anything wrong to me. But, you know, at the time, you know, if it wouldn't been her, you know, I would be dead right now. I would not be talking on this video. And, you know, I kind of slipped, you know, when I was holding on to the rail, and I just went under, you know, 12 feet water. I can't swim, you know. Make fun of me if you want, but, like, you know, I cannot swim. And, you know, deep water is like a fear of mine, you know, when it comes to that. So it's like, you know, I pretty much stay away from it, you know. So, you know, I mean, I would go to the beach or something, or like by the ocean, but I wouldn't go in it, if that makes sense. Like, you know, because I'm just too terrified. So, you know, but anyway, you know, it's like that. You know, when you're under the water, you know, the only thing about drowning, like in underwater, that feels different is when you've almost drowned, there will be this sense of like peace come over you. Because, you know, I barely actually made it out of the water. I was almost dead. And, you know, you know, I remember, you know, just being under there, and, you know, I was under there for like a minute. You know, I can hold my breath like up to like 2 minutes, like almost 2 minutes. And, you know, I knew my time was pretty much limited. I knew, because the lifeguards there, they don't care if you're not like middle class or some big wig. They don't care. They really don't. You know, they're not watching or whatever. They don't really care. But anyway, it's funny too, because the tornado that we had took that pool out. So, you know, yeah, you know, I think God pretty much addressed that issue. So hopefully if they rebuild it like they claim, they won't do this again. But anyway, you know, that's what depression honestly feels like, you know, and it's very hard in certain situations, like depending on what it is. Like with this situation here that I was talking about, like with the voice actor. Yeah, it is messed up, but yeah, nobody cared but that girl. She's the one who helped me out, was my girlfriend at the time. And the thing is like I was 18 and she was 14, man. Like, but anyway, yeah, it's just, that's honestly what it feels like, y'all, is like, and today's kind of been one of those days for me, but not like, it's not like, not to the point where I don't want to talk, but, it's like, I've really found it really hard to keep my head above water today because, well, they're bigwigs. Cops here don't do their job either, so. But anyway, yeah, I've been really, really upset today, but I didn't come to talk and moan and groan about my issues, but yeah, but the stonewalling and the silent treatment and stuff, if you know someone who's doing this stuff, you've got to address the issue, you've got to address the problem, because if you don't address the issue or the problem, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Mark my words on that. And, I don't say that lightly either, and stonewalling, honestly, in my opinion, but even based off what I've read online, like, on Quora and Reddit forums, or, even YouTube videos, like, about relationships, like, even a YouTuber I watch, her name's Courtney Ryan, and she talks a lot about, like, men and relationships, trying to find women, but, she talked about this subject before, and, she didn't really go too much in depth with it like I'm doing now, but, like, she talked a little bit about it, and it's like, it's a ridiculous tactic that people use, because they want to gain control over you. It's kind of like narcissism. It goes hand in hand, and hang on a second, y'all. I'm really trying to win this. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, yeah. It's like it's crazy because I mean, because if you're stonewalling somebody, not only is that other person going to feel like crap, but you honestly got to think about what how the other person how they are, like. Yeah, I could use one, to be honest. I really could. I wish I was over there. Anyway, yeah, it's like, it's just, it's very hard to deal with, and it's crazy stuff because, even sometimes talking about this stuff, I apologize because sometimes I just get a loss of words because, it's just so bad. It's so bad, and, you may be honestly asking, how do you break a stonewaller? I'm sure that's probably a question that, some of the people who are going to watch this video or are watching now have had, that's probably a question they have, and, it's like, you gotta maintain your composure, because if you do not maintain your composure, you're already setting yourself up for failure. You gotta assess the situation, obviously. You gotta express your understanding. You gotta use open-ended questions. I mean, you gotta encourage dialogue by asking these questions. You gotta, try to say, hey, I want more than a yes or a no. And, it's just, yeah, crazy stuff. But, you know, like, another thing, too, is, like, you know, if it really shows how bad of a person, you know, someone is if they're stonewalling you like that. Like, you know, like I talked about, like, probably like 30, 40 minutes ago, you know, when I had this ex, she would do, you know, like a little bit of breadcrumbing, like I talked about in the last video. If y'all have not seen the video on breadcrumbing, I highly suggest you go watch it. Because, you know, this is a major topic that a lot of people do not know about, that a lot of people, honestly, it goes under the radar. You know, that, or, you know, or they just do not understand that it's happening to them. You know, so if you haven't watched it, definitely go watch it if you want to. You know, I highly encourage it. But, you know, another thing, too, is the thing with stonewalling is, you know, it shows me, this is what it shows me. I mean, I don't know what it shows y'all, but, you know, it shows me that this person, you know, has no sense of wanting to communicate to you like they should. So, in a sense, if this is how they are, they don't want to communicate, and they just want to put up barriers, what's the point of the relationship? Answer me that, because there is no point. You can make an excuse, sure, but, you know, at the end of the day, you're only hurting yourself if you stay in this kind of relationship. Because, you know, stonewalling, like I said, that will break you. I promise you. If you don't believe me, go date someone and let them stonewall you. Because I promise you, you'll come back and say, you know what, I should have listened to you. You were right about everything you just said. You know, but, you know, stonewalling really sucks. Like, it really sucks. And, you know, and I'll tell you another thing, even your parents can do this too. Like, even your parents can do this because, you know, like one time, like, you know, like my dad contacted me one time and, you know, it was like, you know, hey, you know, how you been? And I'm like, you know, well, why the hell you texted me? You were never in my life to begin with, so why should I, you know, why should I even care what you think? You know, and it's just, it's just crazy. And, you know, it's just, it's very bad. It's honestly bad. Well, kind of try to refrain from cussing in the chat, honestly, but yeah, I agree that they don't care. Honestly, they really don't, because, you know, if someone's stonewalling you, you know, they will. That's a sign they do not care about you. That's a sign of a toxic relationship. You two. It's just a sign of a toxic relationship, and, you know, it's just it's really crazy, you know, and but yeah, if honestly, you know, you're being stonewalled, you know, and, you know, try to find a friend that can honestly, you know, try to help you out, because, or somebody, whether it's a therapist or whatever, because you are going to need it. You know, I honestly can't. I know I've said that like 3 times already, but, you know, I can't stress that enough. It's that bad. Like, you know, and, you know, you have to call them out on the behavior. You know, there's a lot of stuff, you know, that people in relationships, they reward bad behavior. They reward toxic behavior. And this stuff will continue until you stop doing that. You know, it's either you stop doing it, possibly leave, or you stay in a relationship and just suffer miserably for the rest of your life, unless they leave you. You know, so it's just, you know, it's bad all the way around. Like, it's very difficult to get out of, very difficult, you know, and I honestly can't stress that enough either, because, you know, I've honestly had this probably since I've been probably about 14, 13 years old. Like, you know, I've constantly been stonewalled, you know, by a lot of people, you know, right. You know, but like, I've constantly been stonewalled by women all the time. You know, almost every ex I've had, like I said, I've been stonewalled by. And, you know, that's part of the reason the relationship ended, was because I was stonewalled. You know, like I confronted this other girl one time, you know, this was back in like 2010, 2011, and, you know, I confronted this one girl. I was like, hey, you know, why the hell did you cheat on me? You know, I've done this and this for you. I've been a good man for you, but yet this is how you repay that. Like, you know, and then every time I would talk about it, it's stonewall every damn time. Like, I'm not even joking, you know, and it's just, you know, it's a terrible thing to have to deal with. And, you know, I would never wish this on my worst enemy. I honestly really wouldn't. And thanks. But it's just, how's Japan over there, by the way? It's just, it's really bad because, you know, another thing too is like, you know, there's another term I'm going to talk about, like in my next video. I'm going to talk a little bit about flooding in a relationship, because, you know, I've had that too. And I think that's probably the next topic I will talk about, because somebody, you know, that I've talked to before talked a little bit about this, and I think I'm going to probably add in what they said, give them some credit for it, and then, you know, then put my input on it. But, you know, that's bad too. You know, flooding is bad too. And right, yeah, you know, that's the thing. Like, people's intentions in their heart, you know, that's the problem. And, you know, like, you know, another thing too is, like, you know, when I would constantly talk about that stuff, you know, because she used to smoke cigarettes, you know, and eventually she stopped. But, you know, at first, you know, every time she would, you know, I would talk about it, stonewall, every time, stonewall, stonewall, stonewall. And, you know, this was back in 2010, so this has been some time ago. But, you know, I'm sitting here calling you out on something that's bad for your health. I'm sitting here calling you out, telling you, hey, you know, I can't be with you if you're going to continue to self-destruct like this. So what do I get met with? Nothing but stonewall. Nothing but stonewall. And yeah, I do plan on talking about that. A buddy of mine has that. Another buddy of mine has that too, like probably worse than you. Like, no joke. But like, yeah, it's really bad. But yeah, I will talk about that now that you mentioned it. I will put that on my to-do list. But it's you know, another thing too with like you know, like the silent treatment is, you know, that they also sometimes say that, you know, the best medicine is silence, or, you know, something like that. And it's like, you know, when someone says that, get the hell away from them. Get the hell away from them, because they do not know their ass from a hole in the ground. They don't know what they're talking about. Because you go and try that when you get married. Guess what? You're going to be divorced, single, and if you're a man, you're going to lose everything you own because of your mess up. So, yeah, go try that if that's seriously what the advice you want to go by. But, you know, don't come and come to me and say, hey, you know, you were right about this and this and everything you talked about, and then I should have listened. Like, no, don't come to me and say that crap, because, you know, I'm telling you now, like, telling everybody now, like, either you listen or you don't. Like, you know, but Yeah, it's like, you know, hang on a second. Let me try to get this Penny Parker. Crap. Another thing too is like, you know, the silent treatment and stonewalling, it can honestly cause severe PTSD. Like I'm not even joking. Like, you know, it can cause anxiety, it can cause depression, like I mentioned earlier. It's really bad. Like, you know, it can bring about a lot of negative emotions. It really can. And, you know, honestly, to be honest with you, I'm going to say this now. I'm going to call it out for what it is. Stonewalling and the silent treatment is of the devil. It honestly really is. It is of Satan. Because, you know, it's just like the analogy I mentioned probably like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes ago. You know, if you're, you know, talking to God, you know, like a relationship with God, you know, you're going to want to sit there and talk. You're not going to want to give them the silent treatment. And, you know, I'm not talking about when you're like severely depressed, you know, have high anxiety and you can't really think for yourself, you know, about like how to talk, you know, like, you know, you're not in your right mind at that point. It's kind of like, you know, with suicide. When a person commits suicide, they're not in their right mind, you know, and I do plan on doing a video on suicide. You know, it'll probably be like 5 hours long. I'm not even joking, but, you know, I do feel like I need to do it at some point. I don't know when I'll be able to get around to it, but, you know, another thing too is, you know, back in my last video when I was talking about breadcrumbing, you know, another thing too is like these people, they will stonewall you too if the breadcrumbing is not successful. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, they really will. Like, if you've been on the dating market for quite some time, you will understand what the hell I'm talking about. You really will. Like, you know, back from when I was dating, it's even worse now. So, you know, I am so glad I'm not on the dating market because, you know, it's rough. You know, and like I said, I would honestly hate to be, you know, stonewalled and stuff again by another woman. But, you know, another thing too is, you know, if you look in the news, you know, now they've got like, you know, these robots you can buy for like $1,700K or whatever it was. You know, a man can have a companion robot, like a girlfriend robot, and, you know, while my honest opinion on this is, you know, I plan on doing a video on this as well. You know, this is a very sad reality. It is a very sad reality that, you know, that we've became into, because if you have not watched the Ryan Gosling's version of the Blade Runner, like, I plan on watching it, but I know the gist of it. You know, I've seen pretty much almost every scene of the film, you know, but it's like, you know, if you think about that movie, that is coming true as we speak. Like, I'm not even joking. And by 2050, that will be a thing. That will be real. Like, you know, they've already said, you know, I've seen countless news articles, oh, you know, women are going to be sleeping with robots more than men, and men are going to be sleeping with robots more than women. Like, you know, it's like, you know, where does it end? Where does it stop? You know, the attack on family is so bad today that it's not even funny. Not to mention, you've got stonewalling, the silent treatment, breadcrumbing, all the other stuff I talked about, and all the other stuff I plan on talking about. So it's like, you know, there's no end of shortages to this, you know, and I really feel sorry for all the men and women who are desperately trying to find somebody, and they can't because they've either been stonewalled, they've been breadcrumbed, they come against a narcissist, or whatever, you know, all the stuff I talked about, or whatever I plan on talking about. I feel sorry for them because, you know, I've been in those shoes. I know how they feel. And, you know, it is really bad. Like, it's very bad. And, you know, like, another thing too is, like, you know, I would honestly say, you know, that a lot of people, back to my point when I was making about breadcrumbing, back to my point on that is, you know, if you're being breadcrumbed, I'm sorry, I gotta laugh at the term, but anyway, if you're being breadcrumbed, that's going to cause intense anger. That's going to cause intense irritation, like I mentioned in the video before. And say now you're being stonewalled while being breadcrumbed. You're not going to last. You're really not. You're going to need some pills, like depression pills, anxiety pills, something. Like, you're going to need it. And I kind of chuckle at that because if I don't, I'm going to just sit here and cry. But like it's that bad of an issue. It's that bad of a problem. And I was also watching somebody. I forget the guy's name, but he was like, when it comes to the dating market today, either A, you're being stonewalled, B, you're being breadcrumbed, or C, you just got a narcissist, all in general. Like, it's like, and when I say this, I'm not talking about like Japan or anything, like Cherry or anything, but like, it's just really crazy. Try to refrain from using like gay talk in the chat, because this is not what this is about. But anyway, like that's a huge issue, is the fact that all of them are like either A, breadcrumbing you, C, being a narcissist to you, or C, or B, being a narcissist to you, or C, they are simply just giving you the silent treatment, and they're stonewalling you. And when someone's stonewalling you, you can't get nothing done. You can't get anything out of them. It's a waste of time. You might as well just end the conversation, because it's a lost cause at this point. And unless that person is willing to go and seek therapy, unless that person is willing to change, to try to change, because changing stonewall, and I'm gonna tell you now, good luck. But anyway, if they're not trying to actively do that, you're setting yourself up for failure. You honestly, genuinely are, because like I mentioned before, I'll say this again, I've been stonewalled by almost every ex. Like, and I'll give another example. Like, when I ran off with that girl in Indiana, and she love bombed me too. I talked about love bombing just literally like 2 hours ago. And, if you haven't seen that video, go watch it. Love bombing is it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous stuff. Like, but the thing is these dating apps are making these problems worse. Internet dating has, and I'm not saying like, all, internet dating is wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about like dating sites like Bumble, Meet Me, Plenty of Fish, Scout, all those like that, Well, yeah, therapists will even stonewall you too. I know that too, because mine does that. My last one, every therapist I've ever had has stonewalled me. So yeah, I know damn well what you're talking about. But it's just, it's a waste of time. Therapy, in my opinion, for people like me, it's a waste of time, because what they want to do is they want to put you on anxiety drugs, they want to put you on depression drugs, stuff that does not work. Like, and if this stuff does work, like, I will honestly even bet money. Like, I would honestly bet money that the only people that this stuff works on is people who do not have depression, anxiety at its hardcore limit. Like, I'm diagnosed with the highest form of depression known to man. And, I've had a doctor tell me, he said, I'm going to be frank with you. You will not get better. You won't. So it's like, even though, I had hope to get better, it doesn't matter, because, I know that doctor deep down is right. Unless God works some sort of miracle, that is the only way it's going to happen. Because, and another thing too is like, there's things that help with it, like gaming on my end does, you know, but, you know, it's just, oh, well, that's good, man. I'm glad for you. Yeah, it's just, you know, like, you know, I had a therapist before, like, you know, I would tell him about stuff I'm dealing with. Like, I told him one time, I hate to get real graphic in the chat, but, like, I told him one time, you know, and I told him, I said, look, I said, you know, I feel like taking something to my arm, going up and down and down and down and down, up and down, and screaming in pain, screaming. And, you know, because of the, you know, of that person I lost to suicide, because of that person I no longer have, because of that person, you know, I can't even really play like some games they're in. I can't even really watch some animes they're in because it's so painful for me to do so. Because, and I'm not mad at her. A part of me blames myself because, you know, a part of me wishes I could be there. I could have been there, but regardless of the fact, this video is not about suicide. Anyway, you know, I told him this. Kid you not, man, this therapist goes to my wife and is like, hey, you got to hide all the butcher knives. You got to hide everything sharp in the house. You know, it's like, you know, what the hell, man? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, who the hell is going to get rid of their butcher knives? Who the hell is going to get rid of their kitchenware to do this? Yeah, pastors do stonewalling too. I talked about that like in the beginning of the video. They do that too. And, you know, every pastor I've ever had has stonewalled me. And I say all the time on this channel, I do not care about church. I do not care about having a pastor. It is not biblical. You do not need it. You know, and I also talk about how, you know, every man who is of God is technically a pastor. Every man of God can baptize. What it is the Matrix has got this thing put together, you know, and, you know, they're saying, well, oh, got to go to college to have a degree, got to do this, got to do that, then you can be a pastor. No, that's not how it works. And, you know, a part of me, you know, infuriates me to no end about that because, like, you know, if you're a man and you're a believer of God, you know, it's just, you can go down to the river and baptize somebody. Hell, you can go to the bathtub and baptize them. It don't really matter. You know, I mean, there's people that's been baptized in the bathtub. I mean, you know, it doesn't really matter, you know, like, but they see it that way though, because the churches are of the Matrix. They are of the elite. They are of the world. They are not of God. And you know, I tell this joke all the time on this channel, but there is a joke. It's about a man. He's a homeless man, and he goes into a church, and, you know, he's looking homeless. His clothes got holes in them. You know, he doesn't smell the greatest. He goes, hey, you know, I just want to sit down and listen to the pastor preach a message. Well, the pastor kicks his ass out because he's homeless. And so the guy who's homeless decides, well, I'll just go sit by the window and I'll listen to the pastor preach. So he does just that. And, you know, a man walks up to him and says, you know, hey, what are you doing? Shouldn't you be in there? And, you know, the man replies, the homeless man replies to him, you know, I tried to go in. They kicked me out. And he goes, I wanted to just hear the words of the Lord. I just wanted to hear the words of the Lord. I'm not doing well. I'm having a tough time, you know, and they shut me out because I was homeless. And the man literally replied to him, you know, it's kind of funny when you think about it, but then it's honestly kind of serious. You know, it's very serious. Yeah, I agree. I can't stand the freaking middle class. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's this church that I'm talking about. He refers to the middle class. But anyway, this man replies to the homeless man, my name is Jesus Christ, and I've been trying to get in this church for years. You know, and it's like, you know, a lot of people may laugh at the joke. A lot of people may laugh at the joke, you know. But in all honesty, this joke, it's not a joke. It is serious. 99% of churches is like this. And, you know, like I had a pastor come to my door, you know, like not too long ago, like, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And I was telling him, like, you know, no, I'm not coming to your church. I got church hurt. You know, I don't care nothing about it. You know, I don't want to listen to some pastor preach a message. I want to learn it and preach myself. I don't want to sit down and listen. I mean, yeah, there's a good time to sit down and listen, you know, and if you need a pastor to listen to, I highly recommend a man named Paul Washer. Best dude I've ever heard talk about the Lord, honestly, in my personal opinion. Like, you know, like when that dude speaks, like, honestly, I get Apostle Paul vibes from him. Like his voice, honestly, while he speaks about God, like, I feel like that shit would move a mountain. Like, that's honestly how powerful that dude's voice is. And he goes to, like, college campuses, you know, and stuff, and preach the Word of God. Like, you know, the way he does it is biblical. Like, you know, and the dude will honestly really kind of tear your heart out too, because, and what I mean by that is, like, he will punch you in the feels. Like, you know, he will make you cry by what he's saying. And I'm not talking about it in a negative way. I'm talking about, like, you know, like you can feel like the presence of God on that man. Like that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like you really honestly can. And another one like that is a man by the name Bodie Baucham. You know, he's really good too. You know, like, but you know, I would attend both of these churches if I was in the area. I would honestly go to these churches because I would know that those pastors would genuinely give a damn. Like, because, you know, I've seen these two pastors talk to poor people. I've seen them do it. You know, Paul Washer does not care what kind of money you make. He does not care because, you know, at the end of the day, that stuff does not matter, you know, and, but yeah, pastors will stonewall. They really will. Like, you know, and a lot of them lie too, you know, like I mentioned in one of my other videos like 3-4 days ago. A lot of them will lie, and, you know, that's not of God either. But, yeah, I mean, you know, and another thing too is, like, you know, when a lot of times when you try to address a situation, especially if it's middle class or, you know, like the middle class church, you know, because all these churches are full of middle class, you know, and always hating on the poor, always hating on people on Social Security, always hating on people on food stamps or unemployment or whatever it is, you know, they will hate on them. And if they don't say it, they're thinking it. I promise you that. I promise you that. You know, if they do not say it, they are thinking it. Because you got to learn how to read body language. If you learn how to read body language, that's how I know that. That's how I know they're thinking it. Because I know how to read body language. And when you tell them that, they will try to gaslight you and say, oh, no, well, you can't let, you know, your self-hate, you know, control what you think or what you see. You know, you're seeing something that's not there, you know. Because, see, when you say stuff like that, you're sitting here saying, hey, I do not conform to the matrix. I do not conform, you know, to the world. I don't do that. I see the world for what it is. I see everything, you know, in black and white. You know, I see without rose-colored glasses. And, you know, when you do that, it's almost like, you know, like I mentioned before, it's like, you know, oh, you know, we got to get this person back in the matrix. We got to get this person, you know, to conform. We got to get this person back under the spell of the matrix because they're different. You know, we don't like that. They're different. And, you know, when it comes to stuff like that, you know, like, you know, if you're in the matrix, honestly, I have no business to talk to you. Like, that's honestly how I feel about it. Like, you know, because you're not going to see the truth. You're not going to see the light, you know. So, I mean, you know, like I said earlier, you know, if you are being stonewalled, whether it's by a pastor, if you're being stonewalled by a pastor, I want to say this, honestly. Do not care about going to a church building. A church building is nothing. This was the Pharisees' problem. You know, this was the exact problem of the Pharisees is, you know, they worship the temple, which would have been the church, that they go to pray or whatever they do. They worshiped it. They did not worship God. They worshiped the temple to pray in. and they pretty much told Jesus, hey, we don't believe you're the Messiah. You're a blasphemer. So that's the problem. And these middle class, a lot of them, most of them are Pharisees. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. Like I talk about all the time, they are narcissists. They want to be the ones in authority, and Jesus doesn't care about that. Jesus does not care about class. As a matter of fact, Jesus, to be honest, if Jesus cared about class, Jesus would care about the poor people more than anybody on the face of the planet, because in the Bible, Jesus completely says, he is for the poor. Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you had to go to a church building, for salvation, then Christ's blood would be pointless. Because, at the same time, you'll hear a lot of stuff talk about predestination, and predestination is biblical, but it's not like a lot of people think. It's like, when people think about predestination, they're like, oh, well, so people are just damned to hell, they're doomed. No, it's still free will goes with predestination. Like Hitler, for instance. He was predestined to hell because of what he did. He rejected God his whole life, so therefore he was not called by God. He was not justified or anything. The Bible says, here's the thing, if predestination was not real, then the Bible would not say no one has come to the Father on their own. It literally says that in the Bible, because we do not come to the Father on our own. He calls us to come to Him. And, it's like the church has completely forgotten this. Like, completely. And, it's a sad reality, but I honestly didn't come on here to preach, but, yeah, it goes with the whole stonewalling thing on the pastors, though. But anyway, another thing, too, is, you got to express your understanding when it comes to stonewalling, because, it's a very terrible thing, and when you're a victim of stonewalling, another thing too is, like, if someone is stonewalling you, and it's like, they want to, say they want some intimacy or something, but they've stonewalled you. It's like, well, why should I give you intimacy when you stonewalled me? Why should I hold you or kiss you or do anything like, NSFW with you, like if that's how you're going to treat me? Because, no, nobody in their right mind would do that. Yeah, it can cause complete emotional turmoil, like no joke. It really will. And it also causes extreme trust issues. Like that's one reason why I have trust issues, is because of this reason, and many more. But this is one of the main reasons I have trust issues, is because of this. And, as a matter of fact, I talked a lot about this with my friend in the chat here, Cherry. I talked a lot about this with her because, she could pick up on that. She picked up on that, and and I guarantee you, another friend I have, he probably picked up on it too. But I don't really know if he picked up on it, but he might have. But I know for damn sure she did, because we talked about it, and it can even be in friendships. You be stonewalling, and it was just, it was terrible. It was honestly a bad conversation, and yeah, I agree. But yeah, it was a terrible situation. Terrible situation, and it was bad all around. Like, and she knows a lot about, who I was talking about, about the suicide thing, but yeah, I know. But it's just like, stonewalling is really tough to deal with. It's very tough to deal with, and, it's almost impossible to deal with. Like, it's honestly that bad. And, if someone was being stonewalled, like, honestly, I would have to pull them aside. Yeah, like I'm talking about in a relationship. If someone was being stonewalled in a relationship, honestly, I would probably have to pull them aside and be like, hey, this person is stonewalling you. So either you do something about it, or this and this and this is going to happen. Like, because I know I've lived it. So it's like, and also, I'll tell you another thing. It'll give you social anxiety. It'll give you social anxiety because, if you've been stonewalled, it's like you lose all sense to even try to find friends, to find like anything, to find a relationship. More importantly, to find a relationship. That's what I'm talking about. It's more, for that. And it's what they're doing is they're giving you, they're avoiding the whatever it is being talked about. They're avoiding the topic, and like I said before, if you're doing that in marriages, then them marriages, I promise you, will die. They will die, and for me, we don't do none of that. Like in my marriage, that's not allowed. Because we believe in open communication, stuff like that. And it's just it's really bad all around. But yeah, I mean, come on, we're almost winning this. Anyway, but yeah, another thing too is like, I talked about a little bit earlier about rewarding bad behavior, and almost everybody does this. I've noticed, and it's like, and I've done it in the past. I can admit that, like I said, I'm not going to lie about it. I've done this in the past, years and years and years ago with like exes, and, like if they cheat, they'll be, I won't do it again, and it's like, oh well, okay, because it's like, you don't want to let the relationship go or whatever it is. It's like, but here's what I'm going to say about that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do what I did. Make the change I made, because if you do that, if you honestly, genuinely do that, you're going to be hurting. You're really going to be hurting, because, being breadcrumbed is bad enough. Being stonewalled is bad enough. Being love bombed is bad enough. And the other stuff I talked about and plan to talk about. But, when you add cheating into the mix, it's a recipe for failure. It is a recipe for disaster. Even worse if it's just one of these. So, but the thing is, like I mentioned earlier, dating apps like those, they have honestly completely destroyed dating. Like, I'll tell you this, did you know that dating apps are mostly women? I don't know if y'all knew that, but dating apps are mostly women. And I'll tell you why that is. Because I'll do a whole video on this, but I will make this point, because most men have gave up on dating because of like in the Western world. I know it's a bit different from where you live, Cherry, and I know a lot about the stuff where you live at. I know there's stuff like people like that there. I'm not saying there's not, but it's a lot less common than over here. I mean, yeah, there's people who still stonewall and stuff over there, but yeah, it's really bad over here, and the dating apps don't make it any better. And I do know that the dating apps made it worse for like the whole world though to find a partner, because like everybody's got like unrealistic expectations, and it's just ridiculous, like like say like you'll be like, and talk like say like a man, like you'll be talking to this woman, right? And then she's like, well, if you don't make like $500K a year, no, we can't be seen together. And it's like, no man is going to deal with that unless he is a beta male, unless he is whipped. That is the only way a man will deal with some kind of crap like that, because, you know, a true Sigma male is not going to deal with that. Hell, an alpha male won't even deal with that more than likely. I mean, so it's like, you know, a lot of people is like, you know, well, why even try, you know? And, you know, dating apps have really destroyed this. And, you know, destroyed dating, I mean, sorry. And, you know, it's just bad all around. And, you know, oh, that's cool. Yeah, anyway, yeah, like it's a ridiculous thing. I mean, I know this video has gone on pretty long time, to be honest. You know, this video has already approached an hour and 30 minutes, but you know, probably, I think. But you know, it's just, it's honestly ridiculous. Reread what? It's honestly ridiculous because, you know, a lot of people are genuinely trying to find, you know, their soulmate. You know, a man is genuinely trying to find a woman to be his soulmate. A woman is trying to find a man to be her soulmate. And, you know, yeah, it's rare to find, you know. I'm honestly surprised, you know, that, you know, I'm like that, you know, like I got one like that, you know, but you know, it's just, it's really crazy if somebody will put up a stonewalling, you know, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people do it, and it's just, it's honestly, you know, like I said before, it is of the devil. It really is. And I mean, yeah, you know, so that's stupid. But yeah, you know, it's ridiculousness. And yeah, I know you tell me that all the time, Terry. It's just, you know, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you summed it up, man. Yeah, it's like that, right? You know, and you know, it's honestly ridiculous, you know, because I would never stonewall somebody, you know, and it's a very bad thing to do. But, you know, I guess I will talk a little bit more, honestly, about how it can hurt a relationship, because I want to go a little bit more in depth with it. So basically, you know, when a person is stonewalling, they are dismissing and minimizing the other person's concerns or problem. That's what they're doing. And, you know, and a lot of times, like I mentioned before, that they will walk away. That they will walk away from discussions that cause the least little amount of stress, you know, anxiety, because, you know, they know they're stonewalling. They know it. And, you know, at this point, you know, it's just, it's crazy. And, you know, I would not wish it on my worst enemy. And, you know, it's ridiculous, because I appreciate that. I try to be. Yeah, it's just like, you know, I'm glad I honestly created this YouTube channel. I honestly really am, because, you know, and you know, I thought about, you know, like, you know, maybe I should just talk about games on here, you know, because I do talk about games on here, but it's like, you know, I kind of felt like led by the Spirit of the Lord to talk about stuff like this, you know, so, you know, that's one reason why I'm doing it, and two, because I've lived through it. And, if I can help somebody and help bring awareness, that's all that matters. At the end of the day, it's not me, it's Jesus Christ, it's the Lord, the God of the universe, and, all glory and stuff goes to God, but, it's just, it's some crazy stuff, like I was talking about the other day, something on breadcrumbing is, if you're being breadcrumbed, honestly, and for those of you who kind of missed the breadcrumbing video, I'll kind of sum up breadcrumbing here in a minute. But like, when you're being breadcrumbed, it's just, it's one of the worst feelings in the world, just like this. It's one of the worst feelings in the damn world. And, basically what breadcrumbing is dating has made breadcrumbing way more easier. Now, I know, Cherry, you know what it is, because we was talking about it in the chat the other day. But, breadcrumbing is where, when a person, what they will do is they will, show you enough attention, show you enough, like, love and support and care, kind of, to keep you interested. But at the same time, they are talking, like if a woman's doing it, now women breadcrumb more than men. I will say that. That is a fact. But men do breadcrumb. So I'm not saying they don't, but they do. Anyway, when you're being breadcrumbed like that, a woman who's breadcrumbing a man, what it is a person who keeps them interested, like I just said, but, just like barely enough stuff to keep them interested. Kind of like hook, line, and sinker kind of stuff. And, they will go out and the women will talk to other men. They will have other men on the dating sites. They will be on the dating sites. Like if you go, like on YouTube, I'll repeat this again, because this actually does kind of go with Stonewalling. There's these videos I'll watch on YouTube, and I know we talked about Cherry, and I know you've seen some of them. And, like what they will do is like, these random people will approach, like YouTubers will approach like a couple, and, they will say, like, talk to the man first. They'll be like, hey, do you trust her? So on and so forth. Would you let her see your phone? Stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, we've been together for so and so long, and I trust her completely, and then they'll ask the woman, like, yeah, I'll do the same thing, but, sometimes when they ask to see the phone, they get, real finicky, because women are always hiding something on the phone a lot of the time. But, no offense, Cherry. I know you're not like that, but I'm not really necessarily talking about a lot of people over there. I'm kind of talking about people over here right now. I know there's people over there like that, but I'm mainly talking about people over here, and like some other countries I got in mind. But, no, not playboying. That's something totally different. Playboying is way different than breadcrumbing. What they do, like, anyway, these videos, they'll be, and then the YouTuber will be like, hey, I got this thing called Cheater Buster AI or something, and, like, we can see if she's on any dating apps, because it's to catch a woman on a dating app. Oh, man, when they mention that, they are livid. They're like, hey, honey, can we go? There's no need for this, there's no need for this, They will start literally freaking the hell out, because they know they are busted. Because, they know that they've been on a dating site, and every single time they put that in there, the man is always a good giga-chad, and I'm proud of that too, because I respect giga-chads. And, well, he'll see that she's been on a dating site like 2 hours ago or 2 days ago, and he's like, no, I'm done. I trusted you. I'm walking away. And then the woman, you know, then she'll start trying to gaslight and start saying, hey, you know, if it wasn't like that, you know, that's not me. That's not me, when it's clearly them. Like, they're trying to gaslight them into thinking what their eyes are seeing is not really there. They're seeing something that's not there, you know. And, you know, breadcrumbing is very terrible, you know. But like I said, if you've not seen the video about breadcrumbing, go watch it, because, you know, I honestly had a lot of fun making that video. I mean, it's a depressing topic to talk about, but, you know, there were certain people, you know, that was really interested in that video and that did talk to me about it. But, you know, yeah, I mean, you know, another thing, too, I'm going to talk about is because a friend of mine mentioned this, you know, when I was in a party chat with him one day, and we was playing this game, and he's like, you know, do you know what monkey branching is? And I was like, yeah. I said, yeah, I do know what that is, because I've dealt with it. And, you know, I was like, you know, have you ever been monkey branched? And he said something, I couldn't really hear him or whatnot. And then I told him, I was like, well, I'll tell you what then, I'll make a video on monkey branching, you know, next week. Like, I plan to put that out Monday, a video on monkey branching. But, you know, that's going to be an intense video too, because, you know, there's a lot to dive into when it comes to monkey branching, and that monkey branching is very bad too. Like, it's honestly almost on par with stonewalling. Like, it's really bad. But, you know, I will put that up Monday. So if you like my videos, then you don't want to miss that one, because that's honestly a very good video. That's going to be a very good video. Also, I haven't done this yet, and I kind of feel bad for doing it, because I kind of just noticed it like this morning. I noticed my subscriber count jumped up to like 81. So, like, you know, for the people who honestly subscribed in the past few days, I really appreciate the support. You know, you're the reason I do this channel, so, you know, I appreciate the sub, you know, and I hope you enjoy the content, because, you know, I'm not going to stop doing the content. I'm going to put this stuff out every day, you know, unless I'm like sick or, you know, completely not home. But, yeah, you know, and another thing too is, like, back to going how it'll make you depressed, you know, like, there was a thing, you know, it was like, you know, and you should have seen the atmosphere too. Like, the atmosphere of the concert that I'm talking about, you know, like, I went and seen Skillet back in August, and, you know, like, John Cooper was talking about, you know, a little bit about depression. You know, I didn't expect him to talk about that. I really didn't. And, you know, he started talking about, you know, how depression is, you know, and tonight we say no to depression, you know, and it kind of reminds me of the Matrix. You know, we say no to the Matrix, we do not conform. I understand depression is a lot harder to say that kind of thing too, because, like I mentioned earlier, depression, like I said before, it's like, you know, even today, like, I've really found it hard to keep my head above water. Like, I can't stress that enough. Like, I know what that's like. And I feel that way a lot. Like, you know, and, you know, honestly, if you know, I would probably be dead now, because, you know, I probably would have ended it back when, you know, this whole thing with the voice actor happened. If honestly I had not had my wife with me, I probably would have done it. And, you know, and another thing too is, like, you know, I met a guy today, and, you know, we were talking about some of this stuff too, and, you know, he asked me if I was a Christian, you know, because we kind of talked about a little bit about Elon Musk and, you know, stuff like that, because I like him and he liked him too. And, you know, he was like, you know, yo, you a Christian? You know, I was like, yeah, I am, you know, and, you know, he was like, yeah, I am too. And, And then he added me or whatnot, and then, but, I was talking to him, and he was like, I told him, I said, I've not always been a Christian. I used to be an atheist. And, we started talking about it, and, every time I tell the story, I'm not going to tell the full story. I'm not really going to say much about it because I'm going to do this in another video. But, the only reason, besides my wife, that I'm here right now is due to the fact, back last year, a little bit, when this was extremely fresh, like my desire to go watch Saw X was really strong because, and I'm glad I did because I can honestly say that movie saved my life. It really did. Like, that movie is my favorite movie. That there's no movie that can beat that for me because, unless it's like Christian or something, or maybe anime or something like that. But I'm not talking about stuff like that. Like, I'm talking about like an American movie, and stuff. But, throughout the whole time in the theater, like, it was, well, I mean, as soon as this movie came on, like, it just started speaking. But, you could just really feel God and stuff. Like, I know that may sound weird to some of you, maybe watching this movie, watching this video, sorry. Oh, well, how can you, think that about like a movie like that, I mean, wait till I put out the video to that. That video will blow your mind. It'll honestly blow your mind. That's going to be another long video. That one right there will be really powerful, moving video. So, but, and as a matter of fact, when I do start that video, I will probably start that video off with a prayer and probably end it with a prayer because of the topic it's about. Because I'm going to put this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, stuff like, the suicide and the Saw stuff in one whole video. And, yeah, I remember you telling me that. It's good stuff. But, yeah, it's like, but, yeah, back to the Stonewalling thing, I kind of got a little bit off topic. But, another thing, too, is like, if you're being stonewalled, you will also have a lot of like crying fits, and this is due to feeling rejected, feeling isolated, stuff like that. It's stuff that the Matrix makes you feel, like. And if a person says, "Oh, well, we're not living in the Matrix," then they're an idiot. And I don't say that lightly, and I'm not saying that to put anybody down, but it's like, that's just, they're an idiot. Because, we are genuinely living in the Matrix. It's another thing too, like, if you don't believe me, go and watch the video by Disturbed, called The Vengeful One. Because not The Vengeful One, but Open Your Eyes. Go watch the video about that and read the lyrics, because that is talking about the Matrix. That's what that's talking about. And, I talk about the Matrix quite often on this channel, because, I want to raise awareness to it, because almost everybody is trapped. We are trapped in the Matrix to some extent. Everybody is. But it's like, like I say all the time, we do not conform to the Matrix. We do not care about the Matrix. We do not live in the Matrix. Because we are of God. We go by the word of God. We do not care about places like the World Health Economic Forum. We do not care about places like NASA. We do not care about like people like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. We just don't care. We really don't. And I'm pretty sure Cherry's fixing to probably make a comment about what I just said. But anyway, it's just, it's really bad. It's really bad stuff. And, the Matrix it's very bad stuff. Like, because crap, we are in the Matrix, and, it's honestly crazy, and I would not wish it on my worst enemy, but That's what they do. Yeah, like I said, I knew the Trump 24 was coming. Yeah, he won too. A couple days. It's like, 2 days and this nightmare will be over for us. But yeah, also seen y'all's prime minister, because I know y'all got a new one. I'll say this really quick before I go back to Stonewalling. I seen y'all's new prime minister. He was like, he looks looking forward really good to working with Donald Trump and stuff like that. And I was like, man, that is cool. Like, that is cool, because I know most Japanese people honestly do not care for like Democrats in general, because it's more of a conservative country, and I know like a lot of y'all over there in Japan, y'all love Donald Trump, so like, that's a plus too, like, I mean, y'all over there, y'all got a lot going for y'all, like seriously, but I do say, all the time, because we talked about like some of the problems over there, but yeah, it's good stuff over there, so, but yeah, Sleepy Joe is bye-bye. He's gone. He's getting the hell out of here, because we voted his ass out, but it's. But the problem is, though, Donald Trump can't solve the Stonewalling problem. He can't solve breadcrumbing. He can't solve any of these problems. Because I don't know if any of y'all has ever noticed, like, I know, Cherry, you was a little bit too young for this, and plus you don't live over here in the Western world, so, and I'm glad you don't, but, like I said, I really hope to move over there. But anyway, over here, I noticed back in the 2000s, like, I uploaded a video that I found, and I wanted to put it on my channel because, I'm a huge PlayStation 2 fan, and, PS2 is still best console. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, yeah, these games are dope. Like, this game here that I'm playing is dope as hell. But, like, the PS2 is the best console of all time. Like, it'll never be beat, I don't think. And I think because, number one, because it's nostalgic, for one, for people like us, and two, it's just, the games on that console, it was just, they were ahead of its time. They really were. And, like, I don't know if anybody's ever, like, anybody on this chat has, like, ever played Hitman on the PS2. But, Hitman on the PS2, that shit was way above its time. Like, the graphics to that, like, like, I know kids today, like Gen Z, be like, oh, them graphics suck, but, in all reality, those graphics were way better. It was a big step up from, like stuff like PS1, stuff, and like, Super Nintendo, and, that was some crazy graphics, like, for real, like, because, we was young at the time. It's like, we was like, oh my gosh, their mouth moves when they talk, and, it was just, you just had to have been alive and our age, and my age at the time, when that was going on, because it was just, it was really cool. But, back to Stonewalling, if you are being stonewalled, definitely bring this up to your therapist if you are being stonewalled, because, and kind of see what they will say too. Like, kind of see what they will say about it. See if they'll try to help you out of it, and, I've even honestly heard that stonewalling can cause personality disorder, like bipolar disorder and stuff. Like, I've honestly heard it can even cause that. Like, and if it can cause that, that's pretty bad. Like, that's some serious stuff, like, for real, and, and another thing too is, like, it'll also cause a lot of people, like, the inability to commit. Like, and thank the good Lord, I've never had that problem, but, if you've been stonewalled, it'll make it hard for you to commit. Like, it really honestly will. Because, it's like, why would you commit if you're just being stonewalled? Why would you commit if you're just having the silent treatment and, you know, it's just crazy stuff. Like, you know, but, you know, I mean, you too. But it's just like, you know, it's not fun. It really isn't fun. And another thing too is like, you know, if you're being stonewalled, you know, like I've even seen some men, like if they've been stonewalled, they will literally lash out in anger and like punch like a wall or something. Like I've done this before, and you know, like the victim will be so mad that they will punch a wall. Like one time, you know, because I had been stonewalled, I kind of told my wife this story. I didn't really tell her I was stonewalled, but you know, there was this guy one time. We was just screwing around, like, you know, what buddies do and stuff, and we was like, you know, playing around, and you know, he was like, hey, you know, I wonder which one of us could put a bigger hole in this door. And you know, he literally punched this door like all the way through, like, you know, did a small hole with his fist and stuff. And you know, and he was like, all right, your turn. I mean, dude, I took my elbow to this door, and I mean, I took it, and I mean, I slammed it with so much force. It looked like someone put like 5 fists in the door, like. And he looked at me and he said, damn, he said, he goes, what the hell are you mad about? I said, sorry, man, I dealt with a little bit of stonewalling, like, or something like that, I said. And I was like, I'm kind of angry right now, and, you know, and I don't want to talk about it. And, you know, and it can really make you angry. It honestly really can. And, you know, it can make you lash out in anger, you know. And, you know, I bet there's some people, honestly, you know, and I'll tell you what, you know, if a person gets so angry at stonewalling, the thing that honestly scares me is the fact, because, see, us men, we're simple creatures. One of the main things we want is peace. So, you know, if we're being stonewalled, and, you know, and like I said, you know, women stonewall, men stonewall, you know, both do it. But if a man is being stonewalled, it is very dangerous for him to get behind the wheel of a vehicle and start to go for a drive to think. I will say that now, because, you know, there was this one time, you know, I was with my ex and whatnot, and she was love bombing. You know, I talked about love bombing in the last video I did earlier tonight, and she was love bombing, and, you know, I was really pissed off about it. And, you know, because it's like, you know, buying me this and that is not going to make me care about you. Buying me this and that is not going to cause me to be friendly or love you or whatever. And, you know, I even told her that. And, you know, there was this one song at the time, you know, because I was behind the wheel, and I was really mad because I tried to talk to her about it, and she stonewalled me. And I can tell you, I remember this as clear as day. You know, because this was back in like 2015, and I was sitting there because I was driving her car, and, you know, I was sitting there, I was listening to music. I literally took, because I was listening to my metal music, you know, and I took it out and I put the CD in that I had. It was a Tori Kelly album, and it was called Expensive, the song was. And in the song, she goes, "No, your money can't buy love. No, your money can't buy love." And I remember playing that, and I cannot tell you the glare she gave me, because it was a glare. And she even followed it up with the words. She was like, "You're playing this for me, ain't you? Like you're writing this to me." And I was like, "Well, why do you think that? You know, like just playing along, you know?" And she was like, "Well, because, you know, what we talked about and stuff." I was like, "Well, yeah, you know, yeah, actually I do write it to you, because you know, I don't care about your love bombing. I don't care about your, you know, stonewalling." And, you know, we didn't last too much longer after that. And, you know, it's a terrible thing to deal with, you know. And I'm sure a lot of the other people who will see this video will probably eventually comment on it. you know, saying, hey, you know, I've been stonewalled, you know, such and such, you know. Hey, I don't care to hear your story about stonewalling. You know, that's part of what, you know, this channel does. You know, I just talk about anime and anime games and whatnot and weed culture and, you know, and this stuff, you know. So, you know, I like getting on Marvel Rivals and talking and stuff, you know. So, but anyway, you know, I guess I'm going to end this video here, honestly. You know, it is getting a little late for me. So, I kind of got to go to bed soon. So, like, you know, if you've been stonewalled, you know, try to keep your head up. I know that's harder than it is to do. You know, I know that's like kind of a dumb thing to say too. At the same point, because it's almost impossible to try to keep your head up. But you know, you got to try. You know, like I understand it's hard. I get it. You know, so, but you know, if you like the video, you know, if you like long videos, you know, let me know. You know, I know a lot of people, they have a very short attention span, and you know, so it's like, you know, I'm trying to juggle like kind of both, like long content and short content. So, you know, I try to make videos for both, you know, but most people seem to have a short attention span because of that damn phone. And, you know, I plan on doing another video about that too, about the phone. But before I end the video, I will go back to the point I was talking about, you know, in the 2000s, you know, a lot of things were better over here, you know, like not political wise, but like, you know, snack wise, food wise, people were more nicer. They were less stuck up. And, you know, 2010 came and the damn smartphone came out. Not to mention, you know, all that garbage like Facebook and Instagram, all this social media. Like, you know, I'm honestly blessed to live in a time before social media. Like, you know, but, you know, and people even stonewall on social media, you know. So, and you know, I may actually talk about that in part 2 of this, how people stonewall on social media. But, you know, I hope you liked the video. You know, God bless you all, and, you know, I will see you in the next one. I had fun talking about this. Sorry. But, yeah, you know, I hope y'all are all doing good, you know. I hope blessings come upon you all, and I'll see you in the next one.